Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E. I have a very special guest. He's a fellow podcaster. He's an Emmy Award-winning Media Advisor and a talent development executive. Welcome to the show, Vinnie Potestivo.
Yo, Wise, thanks for having me.
Pleasure's all mine, brother. How you doing today?
I'm well. It's the fall season has hit New York. There's a creative vigor that you can literally feel in the streets, the energy, the clients. It's a very demanding time now. It's fun to be creative. It's fun to be here in New York right now while that's going on.
You're in my hometown.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a Brooklyn boy, born and
right.
raised, but now I live in the Pocono Mountains here in Pennsylvania, and you're absolutely right. Fall is here.
I will have a slice for you, my friend. I'm originally from Staten Island. I got as far as Brooklyn and I stayed. And I've always appreciated the view of Manhattan and the beauty that these outer boroughs sort of offered. So, and a good slice of pizza. Sorry that you left that behind. That's probably gonna hurt the most.
That's what, yeah, because I'm a big pizza guy. I love pizza.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of spots out here that makes a pretty good pizza, but of course there's nothing like back home.
All right. Well, it's a nice way to sort of, I imagine what a cool, fun way to meet friends that like have an elevated pizza palate, so to speak, where you find that like-mindedness.
So, all right. So, Vinny, so I was reading over your biography and all that. You've done a lot of things, man. You've been very busy.
All right. If it looks that way, it's a very linear approach to it. It feels like a lot of fails and a lot of successes. I've been lucky to have a career in TV and media and new media, really always in new media, which has been fun.
Yeah. So what exactly is a media advisor and talent development executive?
Yeah. So as a talent developer, what I do is I help people figure out what they're amazing at, and they can be amazing at being good at something, and they can be amazing at being bad at something. Right? If there's a process that you just love and are truly amazing at it, this is the thing that you do best. Again, whether it's successful or a failure, whether you fail beautifully or success beautifully, to lean into those strengths. And some examples of how I got to do that 20 years ago are helping Ashton Kutcher lean into his strength as a creator, where he can show the world that he could create a larger than life version of reality, and also pull mechanics and call cameras, and truly was like a modern creator. He wasn't just, a TV actor or film star, and that he was capable of creating something that was pop culture relevant and punked. Put him on the map for that. I was at MTV when that show came out, and our department was a big, component to how the talent department, those talent-driven projects came out. Jessica Simpson, Chicken Tuna of the Sea, right? Here we have an
yes,
by the way,
that comment.
Now I got the funny thing about that show is if you really want me to dissect it, what that show is a comment on the weird social norm, all the like genderizing and all the things that come with marriage, that suddenly a man is supposed to be and a woman is supposed to be. And I thought what was so cool about the Chicken Tuna of the Sea moment is like, here she's saying she's not good in the kitchen. That's not her specialty. She's not good at grocery shopping. She's not good at cooking. She's not good at that's not her thing. And I thought it was a really relevant perspective, for a young audience, especially as we're figuring out, making room for new ways for relationships and people to evolve as people, let alone as partners and collaborators. So helping people figure out the best versions of themselves. And then the media advisor part is I help them figure out what platform is best, what opportunity they have to stand out, a documentary, a hosting opportunity, a podcast, a book, a collaborative, a co-pro opportunity that I know already exists that I can back them into, or something like that.
So what are three things like someone like myself can do to increase their chances of getting discovered?
Oh yeah, the the craziest thing about getting discovered. Well, first off, we have so much say in when and how and where we get discovered. So, like for y'all, like I was a casting director at MTV in the late '90s, and for 20 years, I was the guy that I would go to concerts, and I would tap people on the shoulder and say, "You have a cool look. Would you like to come in and audition to be a VJ?" And some of that was like, there was people like me who went out and did that. I think you kind of like that was the moment where you had to be, there was always like, you never know when the moment's going to happen, when you're going to get discovered. Discovery is exposure times action. Back then, exposure was you were at the right place, right time, where I was. The action is I got your information and I gave it to a producer. I shared your information. I networked. I shared your information. If you really want to think about what casting is, I found somebody, I got their information, and then I gave it to somebody else. Casting, it took it from one point to another, a person from one point to another. Same exact thing we're doing right now with podcasting. I'm taking one audio file from one place and I'm giving it to a person who's requesting it. Podcasting and casting, to me, it makes so much sense that my world somehow is in this, like in this digital, how it all sort of makes sense, because people make podcasts, and there's so many more people who make podcasts than there are people who make TV shows. And I'd rather work with a lot more people. I already worked with people who make TV shows for 20 years. So, and a lot of good that did me. So I'm working on my heaven points. I got to get in those pearly gates. I'm looking at you, man, and get me in.
But right now, listen, right now, podcasting is hot, man. It's a media that's not really, it's been around for a while, but it's been untapped. It's a media where people, yes, they talk about there was 2.5 million podcasts started during the pandemic. Yeah. But not even 400,000 of them are still active. And when I mean active, they don't release an episode within the last 30 days or whatever. Yeah. And so some people think, oh yeah, I'm gonna just start a podcast. And once they see the work that goes into doing this podcast, it is not easy. It's definitely a lot of work. You have to really be dedicated. So that's why a lot of podcasts you find only have like 7 episodes, 10 episodes, and then they stop because they see this is really hard work and they just aren't dedicated to doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I hear that number, the 4 million, whatever that growing number of podcasts, and I'm like, yeah, but like, how many poems? How many books? How many songs? How many TV shows? How many reality TV shows? How many movies? How many? I mean, like, you want me to go on and on about intellectual property? And like, here we are, where most of us in our lifetime experienced cataclysmic growth in media. Like, even kids are aware that there are new platforms for me in the 90s, like MTV in the 80s, in the 90s was CNN and Fox News. Like that, I understood growth to be to happen. Change comes slowly but surely, but exponentially. This level of growth, people who say, "Oh, 4 million." If you don't want to do a podcast, you know what? I would say this: if people don't want to do a podcast, don't be a podcast guest. It is cheaper. You actually get somebody who makes content and they use the words that you say. Hopefully you do a lot of work to make sure those words are impeccable, that you hit your talk points, and you make sure that the energy and the passion and the encouragement comes through with takeaways, and there's work that goes into it. But I love being a podcast guest. I find this is where the real work on me comes into play. And I also found that, I had really bad answers. Now I have really good answers to even better questions. And that matters. The questions we ask ourselves, the framing of success, that matters. And it's crazy. It's fun to be back, by the way. So by the way, my first podcast experience in 2006, Fat Man Scoop and his wife developed a podcast called Man and Wife. And I remember going to Hot 97 and listening to it. And I said, y'all, this would be really fun. I know you can come here and record it at the studio. Back then, you kind of needed the equipment. So you recorded it at the studio.
Anybody,
right? The entry point was at a certain level. I was like, but Scoop, you have equipment at home. Well, I want to. It's a weird thing to say this, but like, I want to hear the springs in your bed when you're talking about sex, and I want to be in a more intimate space. And like, I think it would be fun if we did it in your actual bedroom as like a video version of a podcast. I think it should be a podcast, but it should be a video version of a podcast. And in 2006, Man and Wife, the TV show came out, and now 15, 16, 17 years later, I'm finally like, oh, I should have done it all along. I should have stuck.
Just stuck with it.
It wasn't my time. Technology makes this to me very normal. I'm really connecting with you, Wise. Like I don't feel flushed by thinking about the level of eyeballs that I know once watched TRL every single day. Like I know too much. This technology thing, this zoomy kind of video back and this feels really normal to me, and I can really show up as myself. My voice isn't tired at the end of the day because I wasn't changing my voice because I was on, and this has been I don't think I could have been this version of me any sooner than like what's happening right now. And so I'm fully leaned in to being a guest. So thank you for letting me show up.
Oh no, I appreciate you accepting my invite, man. Thank you for coming in. And it's crazy because in the 2 years I've been doing my podcast, it's evolved. I started with audio, and my first 100 and something episodes was strictly audio. And then September of last year, I had a husband and wife marketing strategist on the show. And they're like, do you do video? And I was like, no, not yet. And they went, do you do video? And I'm like, no, I'm working on it. And that third time they go, do you do video? Yes. And press record. And since then, I've been doing the video aspect of it. And as the last 17, 18 episodes that I've been recording have been live. So it went from audio to video to now I'm doing a live show 3 times a week.
Wow.
And it was just time. It was just the evolution of it. It was just me. I was doing the video to gain confidence to get to the point where I can go live. And the part I love about live is that I get to interact with the audience. I have people stop by, leaving comments. Like, big shout out to my girl Amber Jones. She's a coach. She's amazing. I've had her on my show. She's a beautiful person. Then my man Corrado, he's been listening to me since my audio podcast, and he's always checking me out, always sharing my stuff, and being able to acknowledge them and show them that I appreciate the support that they give me is the reason why I go live now. Yeah. Is to be able to interact with them and let them know, hey, I see you out there and I appreciate all the support you're giving me.
Yeah, the input dictates the output. These are people who have a voice and are part of the DNA in what you're creating. They're part of the alchemy of your output just because of how supportive they are. And when you pull on that information, it's awesome to be able to support them live during it, because it's the same energy. That's sustainable. That's sustainable creativity. So it's a beautiful thing you've created here, and layering it in. And it's funny, as you were working on that audio show, what you were really doing is figuring out the format, your flows, your length of segments. Do I want a segment? What's a repeat question? All these little, all of those bits and bops, to go along with it. But I agree. Video is one of the ways that will help audio grow. I would never replace a strictly audio strategy for a video leaning strategy where audio is a second output. I still would recommend leaning with an audio, right?
Listen,
like we're doing here. Yeah.
I still release my audio podcast, and I have my YouTube channel for the some of the videos that I still have to release that I recorded prior to me starting doing the live shows. But to me, it was just the growth. It was just meant for me to grow, and those are what I use to help develop myself and develop my style and develop what I want my show to become.
Yeah.
But with anything, it takes time. It takes, like, when I first started, man, you don't understand. I was getting ghosted so many times. People wouldn't show up, or people would be like, how many downloads do you have, or how many people are listening to you? And I'm like, look, I just started out. I'm new, I'm fresh, I'm green. And like, nah, no, I'm not interested. But the more consistent I became, and the more I started doing it and started reaching out, no's became yeses. And then it became where people started reaching out to me and was like, hey, I heard your podcast. I would like to be a guest. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then when I started getting people like Bob Doyle reach out to me, who I admire a lot because I'm a big fan of The Secret, for him to reach out and be like, his team reach out and be like, hey, we're interested in having Bob Doyle come on and talk about what he's working on right now. To me, that was big because this is someone I admired and looked and considered somewhat of a mentor. Like, wow, this is someone. This to me was big, and to have the opportunity to sit down and speak with him and have a great show with him. To me, I felt like I was blessed. I was like, oh man, this is great. And so to be able to sit down and speak and have conversations with people and have people come share their stories and share their experiences is what I want, because I want people to be out there like, hey, this is a regular dude just recording shows and having a great time, and at the same time I'm learning, and hopefully people out there can learn something from what I'm putting out, and it's just a great feeling.
Yeah. It's cool. The structure, I mean, to be able to leverage a podcast platform to bring in new energy is just like, it's an amazing feat. It makes me wonder if I would have gone into casting the way that I did professionally if podcasting was available, because truly what I did for 20 years in unscripted TV was exactly what we're doing here. I would do I would get you on Skype. I would record the Skype call. I would cut my voice out. I would leave nothing but your voice. I put in like lots of music and photos and send it into the network. I read a one sheet about you and the storyline that I think and how it could fit in, and produce out what I think the episode arc or the series arc or the franchise arc would sort of look like, and remove my voice from it. So being a podcaster has been a fun challenge to me. I am changed. So I've sort of pivoted a bit from how I first launched my podcast. It was always originally going to be with people that I'd already worked with, because I kind of have a lot to work through. A lot of what I did, it wasn't even around when social media was around. So like there's some cool stories that like I get to bring to podcasts. Like, first off, that I get to bring to podcasts like this that will grow with me next year when we're in the top 100, and I know my neighbors. That's a community of strength. But if I want to grow slow with people who I know I can support, who also maybe could support me, maybe if that happens, but also more than importantly that I know I could support.
The amazing thing about the podcast community is that there's some amazing people that love they're a community that wants to help you grow and develop and build. And I've connected with so many amazing people through my podcast, fellow podcasters that have become, they're lifelong friends. They're friends that I know if I need something or need some help, they got my back. And it's because of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's because I come on, I just try to be myself when I do my show. I just want to have a great conversation, and I want my guests to feel as comfortable as possible. I want them to be able to. The show is my podcast, but I really want it to be about them. And I want people to see that, hey, look, there's a lot of interesting people out here doing some big things, some great things, but they start from humble beginnings. They start from like me. I wasn't in media. This wasn't my platform. I wasn't in radio. I wasn't TV. I just decided I was going to press record and start a podcast. And it's grown to the point where I'm getting some recognition now. I'm getting people sending, like I said, people reaching out. Hey, I want to be a part. I want to be a guest on your show. You have great content. You're doing some great things. And that to me is like, this is what I want. This is how I want to grow it. This is, people think that, oh, I'm gonna do a podcast and I'm gonna get 10,000 downloads and I'm gonna be huge. And when they realize it doesn't work that way, they quit. They give up. But for me to be able to see the growth of my podcast and the evolution of my podcast is amazing. I love that. I love the fact that, I love the fact that this is my baby. This is my brainchild. This is what I put a lot of work and effort into it, and it's paying off.
Yeah. People are, oh, you have a podcast. What are your what are your plans with it? I'm like, what are my plans with it? I have a podcast forever and ever and ever. It's mine. I'm never going to sell it. I'm never giving it up. By the way, I'll never have advertising. I never will have advertising on my audio podcast. I I take my videos with my guests and I also turn them into a TV show, and I have that syndicated, and those are on advertising platforms. But that's a second distribution for me. So when I have those episodes, I can put them into that funnel. But I'm not, it's not mandated to do so. So I won't ever go back to an advertising model of content that if I don't have to. I come from TV, so I've already done it. And to me, podcasting is a lot more interesting if I have a lot more freedom of when and how and where I want to publish.
Like that's why I'm happy being an independent podcaster, because I put what I want to put out. I don't have any sponsor or anybody tell me, oh no, you can't put, I can't have you put that out. Like, no.
Right. That being said, my podcast is called I Have a Podcast, and I sit down with people that I've worked with, creators and stars that I've helped launch, and they help launch my careers and I help launch theirs. And we sort of go through the creative decisions we made. You know, it was fun to talk to like Mandy Moore about Princess Diaries and Tangled and auditioning for Rebecca, and should she direct an episode before the end of the season? Like, it was cool to have an impact, you know, in that journey. But I didn't get to meet people on my podcast because I just talked to people I already know. So I took I Have a Podcast and turned it into I Have a Podcast.com is a Google News certified discovery and news platform for indie podcasters. So I'm able to offer indie podcasters a featured podcaster article with your name in the header. It appears in Google News and it ranks. It'll have a good long lasting score. I felt like it was something that most podcasters need in their arsenal of things when they're talking to sponsors or even leveraging opportunities. Is just overall exposure. So I thought the best way that I could probably create value to the relationship beyond just sharing the episode in social media. And also I love asking if I can have this episode afterwards and if I could air it on my podcast, because to be honest, people who listen to my podcast are more likely to hear your interview of me on my podcast than leaving my podcast to go listen to you. So if giving them you on my podcast gets you in front of my audience, then let them go and find you. But either way, like, let me help you like that. I'm building an audience and I built the stage and I'm happy to host reluctantly, but I'm happy to host it. And I love moderating. I'm passionate about moderating. What a weird thing to say. I never thought I'd say that. I love figuring out how to make two people have an argument on stage, you know. But Discord creates, you know, a conversation, and dialogue dies if it doesn't have the ability to be shared. So I'm mindful of all those layers to it, and not to get too meta, just to speak so much about podcasting. It all comes back to that. And then I have a TV show, and I have a podcast, and I have a platform and a Google News platform, and I have a merch collaboration coming out. I have some fun things that I'm about. I think we could all relate to I Have a Podcast, whether you are a podcaster or a podcast guest or a listener, and you feel like that shit's yours because you just own it so much because you love it. And it's like, that's my podcast. I have a podcast. You have to hear it. It's stuck in my mind. That's my podcast. It's my favorite podcast.
And it's funny that you talk about, you say that, because I was talking to a friend of mine and I tell him, like, it's my baby and all that, but it's my audience's podcast. It's their podcast.
Yeah. I built it for them.
Yeah.
I just don't. And then I was like, but I'm so mean. Here I am building. Oh, this is for you, but you can't be on it. That's what I did. So I had to go figure out how to make sure I built a real stage that has sustainable impact, by the way. Also, is this podcast on IMDb? Is it listed on IMDb as intellectual property? Yeah, this is big. So IMDb, that most of us will know as the Internet Movie Database, where we go to find our favorite TV shows,
TV actors and all that.
Actors, who made this film. IMDb now allows podcasts to be intellectual property that you can import your credits to, which means that that you can be getting credit for having a production company, for winning awards, for being a host and a producer and a writer and an editor. And if you aren't all of those things on your podcast, then you have those people and they should be getting credit. So it's not just about.
I'm all that. I'm all
All
that
right.
on my podcast.
If you, but there you have the ability, the space, the grace to give yourself the credit that's due, so people understand the way that your podcast works in this creator economy. IMDb is like the LinkedIn to me for all things in this creator economy. And you have unlimited uploads for if you make social media content to promote your podcast, and now you don't know what to do with all that social media. Luckily, YouTube came out with shorts, so now everyone used all their TikToks and Instas for shorts, and another place, bippity bop, move it all around. Another place to put it is right there on IMDb, where you're literally allowed to upload an infinite amount of support content for your podcast. All of your guests are allowed. Now, this is a data point that Google does not know about you, and it will change in 1 week. First off, in 24 hours, it will stop your star meter and your movie meter will skyrocket. You probably don't have a movie meter because you have no other intellectual property on that. But as a star, if you're already on there, then you'll see how much more discoverable you'll be. And this is like what I was saying earlier about like the things people don't realize they do to make it difficult to be discovered. This is one of the easiest ways right now for podcasters. I created a free resource too. Audiolinked.com, AUDIOLINKED.com. This awesome guy, Ben Courier, he has an awesome podcast called The Failure Guy. And we were talking about it. And I was like, I have this strategy. And he's like, I just did it. And I was like, oh, I had the strategy. I didn't do it yet. So I guess I should do it. And what it did for me overnight on Google was create my whole Google search images changed. What happens on the first tab? Now my podcast, if you type in, I have a podcast on Google search, my podcast actually shows up. That's crazy to think that in 2 years I was able to establish that type of, search recognition on something like that, which was my strategy all along.
That leads me to my next question is, what type, other than IMDb, what other types of opportunities for exposure are podcasters not using the right way?
Oh yeah. Awards. It's a big missed opportunity. Awards, Tonys, Grammys, Emmys. There's no award, professional award, that you don't have to pay to be considered for a nomination before you can even possibly win something. So there are 100+ awards that I've identified that I think are worthy of winning. Based on social causes or based on the integrity of the institution that supports them or the community that's judging them. Awards are our way of thanking people. It's not businesses. You don't hear actors get up on stage and say, I want to thank William Morris. And they say, I want to thank my agent, so-and-so. I want to thank Vinnie Potestivo for da-da-da. We think people. Awards are our opportunity to give and get credit for hard work. And it's also a way for us to stand out on IMDb. It's a way to stand out because you can connect your media awards to your production company. So some people don't connect the fact that if they're producing content, they probably could be producing content under an LLC, which would cost them nothing if they were putting all of their creative output out of a production company. And the benefit of that would be then you would have an award-winning production company who is helmed by an award-winning producer with an award-winning podcast.
It's funny that you say that, because once I started podcasting, I created an LLC. I started a production company.
So smart. It's the best thing. That's like page 2 in my book of like, I know, because that's what every artist, that's what Beyonce, that's what Ashton Kutcher, that's what Wilmer, that's literally, I can go down, that's what Jessica Simpson, Sharon Osbourne, I can go down the list of people who started with an idea and they're like, oh, hold up, wait, I could produce. No. Hold on a second. Let me reframe this. We would like to pitch you on behalf of a production company who's ready to fully render services on this IP, or we're open to a co-pro, but that opens you up for a co-pro deal instead of an executive producer title and possibly role on someone else's project. Collaborating can get funny when you get to media, so I don't want to get too heady in it, but so awards right out of the gate, credits out of the gate. Also, we're in this like sort of celebrity kind of theme. I'll end here. The red carpet. People think that they need to wait for someone else to drop down the red carpet nowadays. If you want this red carpet moment for yourself, this moment where people know that you're going to be someplace, sometime, looking good, looking at your best, ready to give sound bites, ready to perform, ready to be at your best. Like that's what a red carpet is, right? Like the media needs something. So you create that on Clubhouse. You can create that on LinkedIn. There's plenty of places where you can go live now on Instagram, on Twitter, with whether you want to go on audio or video. Plenty of places where you can go that you can create your own residency, and when you build residency, you build authority. That's where community has a place to build its roots.
Oh yeah, no. So the fact that another reason that I enjoy going live now is because using this platform that I use, which is StreamYard, I'm going live on 8 different. I'm on 3 of my different YouTube, Facebook pages. I'm on my LinkedIn page. I have 2 of my YouTube channels, my Twitch channel, my Twitter channel. It gives me an opportunity to really reach all these platforms without me having to upload it to every single one. This allows me to just stream them all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like what it does for you. What it does for them is it makes them not have to jump around all these different channels. We have so many channels now. It's like now I have the one place where I know I can go to find you, and you give me options to be able
catch it.
To find you.
To see
you
it,
also are giving me options to share with my friends who aren't on Twitch. Well, if you watch them on Instagram, you can see them on Instagram, but I watch them on Twitch. You're giving them the option, that data point, to share that. And that's, again, one of those things that we don't think about when we think about how do we create something that people can share. Information, opportunities, experiences are one of them. And that's what you've done here by giving people the options, by giving them the power to choose where they connected to you. That speaks a lot about what you want them to do as they're listening to this, to be really honest, and what you want their next steps to be, which sounds like action. Oof. So they got to go do something after listening to this now. By the way, if you do, be a podcast guest. There's no reason why you shouldn't. I can't think of a reason. Even if you have nothing to sell, be a podcast guest. Talk to someone. Reach out. Talk to somebody. Share an information. Share info. Share an opinion. Like that's my. If there's do you have an affiliate link for Podmatch? Do you put that in your show notes?
Yes, I have an affiliate link.
So click on that.
I share my my Podmatch link everywhere.
Oh yeah, it is. I believe in it so much, and I really, and I've seen Alex pop up here a couple of times in the little promo. I think that what Alex has built, the guy who created Podmatch, what he's built, this community he and his wife have specifically attracted, is a really powerful community. And I said to him, like, this is like, if I'm at MTV, Podmatch is my TRL. Like, I'm just going down to the studio to hang out with whoever's here.
I love Podmatch.
I'm fully leaned in. And and last time I was fully leaned in at MTV, it worked out pretty well for a whole generation of artists. So like, I'm doing it again. I hope that history repeats itself. Otherwise,
no, but see that Alex just showed up.
Yeah,
on the screen. But,
I like that.
But I got to meet Alex live in person when I went to Podfest this year, and we had been communicating before that through Messenger and all that. And it was a great experience to speak to him because he's for the creator.
Yeah,
he created a platform where creators can get monetized. And like, I don't charge anyone to be on my show. But when you interview certain guests on Podmatch, he gives you a commission for interviewing these guests.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was amazing because not everybody's doing that. They're not thinking about the content creator. They're just thinking about lining their pockets. He is not like that. Mm-hmm. He is more worried about, hey, what can I do to make it easier for these independent podcasters that have great shows but aren't getting monetized. Aren't getting the sponsors that are there to help them continue to create content. And he's given the opportunities for us to actually earn some real money.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he didn't have to do that. But the person that he is made him go like, nah, this is what I want to do. I want to help the independent podcaster. I want to help them build them up. And my goal is to help build Podmatch up to become one of the best services out there for podcasters.
I love that. That's powerful. Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm so glad our paths connected, and we're fully aligned within this community. I can imagine the power within. I've loved connecting with people, and here there is a like-mindedness to it that of action. We're paying, some of us pay a fee to be in here. I'm taking it really. By the way, $50 a month is I can't tell you the value that you're getting. I pay $50 a month and I get 8 introductions a day if I wanted it. I am booked until April of next year, and I'm still trying to find new ways to collaborate with people in like deeply meaningful ways as I grow my presence on this platform.
And it's great.
Tremendous.
It's great for content creators, and it's great for people who are trying to who have books or whatever they're trying to promote or whatever. You don't necessarily have to be a content creator. If you just want to be a guest and sign up for the service, you have access to a lot of content creators that are creating some great shows.
Yeah.
And like you said, you booked through April. I'm booking guests. I get my matches and I start sending, and if I feel a connection, like, wow, I like this person. I'll shoot them a message and they'll end up being a guest. And like I said, the last 17 episodes have mostly been Podmatch guests.
It's cool. It's good people. I like it. Y'all, so anyone listening, this is an open invite is what we're saying. Like, go to wherever Wise puts the link, tap that link. You make sure he gets the credit because you want to be in his ecosystem when you come in here so we can stay connected. But use that link to come into Podmatch. It's literally... it's worth its weight in gold. I can't tell you. It's free media training. It's free network. It's not free, but it's media training. It's networking. It's a job. You're getting, like you're just saying, you're getting paid for your time as you're going along. He does other things, certain incentives. I'm an elite member. I actually just joined the Podmatch elite thing. So if you book me through the system, then I think you get paid a little extra than whatever, which I want to come back to. I'm excited about that. That's cool. I like that.
Like I said, it's great because
an extra cup of coffee. Hey, that counts.
as a podcast host, I pay $6 a month.
Oh, wow.
As a host, and I've been signed up for the last 3 months, and I've already made more than what I've paid.
Yeah.
And so to me, like I said, it was the fact that he's willing to give this opportunity, like help podcasters and creators do this is awesome. Like, and I told him
I didn't realize it was $6. That's even like more of a kick to like, I know you have to have like some active podcasts and there has to be like, but that's a huge value.
Yes. If you're a podcaster and you're looking for, and you're struggling to find guests, Podmatch is the place.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a Starbucks cup. It's a Starbucks cup. It's a Starbucks coffee a month.
Yeah.
If you give up one of your Starbucks coffee or give up something for a month, sign up for Podmatch. And you can make some money. You can make commission on certain interviews. There's certain ones that are legacy guys that you won't get commission for, but still interview those people.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter. But the fact that you can make some money doing it, do it.
Yeah. And make impact. And these are people who are changing. These are people who are changing the world. These are people who are changing the industries. I'm fully leaned in, as I said. And as I continue to meet people here on Podmatch, they'll always be part of the alchemy in what I create. And like, I'm very sensitive about that. I know the input dictates the output. So I'm really respectful of the way Alex chooses to connect us through tags. And so he's created a great tool. I can't give it enough of my recommendation.
I'm always talking about it. I'm always talking about
like it.
And I'm always sharing it. When I see someone say, hey, I'm struggling to find guests, I'll send them the link.
Oh yeah.
like in all the groups that I'm in, if I see people like, oh, and that's one of the big things is people struggle to find guests. And so to be able to go on a platform where you can actually put in specific things, and it will link you.
Tags. Yeah.
It will link you with people who have similar tags that might fit what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty powerful tool.
It is. And Corrado says espresso on the house.
Make mine a double. It's the end of the day.
I looked at it. It's my friend Obama. He's another guy who's been supporting my podcast since the beginning, and I appreciate it, man. He says peace to both of us and how we're doing. We're doing great, brother. We're actually here having a great conversation, being able to talk about what we love doing, and which is podcasting right now. So to be able to that's one of the major reasons why that I like to go live now is the interaction. That interaction is just amazing.
It's awesome. It's great. It's great. It's great for that energy to be part of what we're creating, as opposed to only for it to be exposed after. It's like, it's super cool. And you've got 8 live streams going on. That's awesome. Mega. World domination.
Technology is amazing right now.
Yeah,
man.
right.
and like when you were talking about it before, back in the days, unless you had a studio, you couldn't do this. You can record now. You can record studio quality from your house.
Yeah. You'd have to, if you wanted think about even trying to get anything out into the press. Like, you had to. I remember bands broke up and made up, and things happened between 3:30 and 4:30 when TRL was on, because artists knew that that's when we were live. And Mariah would show up to the studio wanting, to give away ice cream, and like Diddy would show up, they would show up knowing that it was live. They had to come to a specific place because it's live. I left in 2007, literally when we all got to go live in our hands. That's when I was like, all right, MTV was fun. And then they did Jersey Shore and Tila Tequila and everything else. That was a different path.
It is no longer. It is no, to me, because I grew up in the 80s, so I remember when MTV was actually music videos, when they showed music videos, and then
who were the VJ? Julie Brown maybe was Kennedy, or
it was Downtown Julie Brown. Kennedy was also there. There was a lot. Oh man,
but it wasn't like Martha Quinn and the early VJs, right?
Yes,
it was. Okay.
I'm up there in age, man.
All right, I appreciate that. I like that. I got to work with those people like 15 when MTV turned 20 in 2001. I remember I was like a talent coordinator on like the barely legal birthday party, and I got to meet all. Unfortunately, JJ had passed away by then, but all the original VJs, and I was just in awe of, like, I don't know, ground. I mean, and by the way, and one of those original VJs is the man who's credited with creating podcasts, creating an audio file that lives on a server that can be RSS, it could be fed and downloaded on demand at a time, and then live on that device in perpetuity. Like, that's a pretty brilliant sort of like mechanism to think of. So. I appreciate my MTV lineage. I think it's Ananda Lewis, by the way, found me on the streets of Times Square. She picked me out of a crowd, and I was going to ask Whitney. It was Spankin' New Music Week, 1998. Whitney Houston was out in Times Square, and I was going to ask Whitney what it was like recording the Prince of Egypt soundtrack with Mariah. What was it like recording it? That was my question that I was produced to ask, and I was nervous. And I remember Ananda like helped me, she produced me, let me practice, and I thought this was going to be my big moment. And Whitney gets there, and the crowd goes crazy, and the producers are pointing what's happening, and you see kind of like a little rehearsal kind of going on, and I see her say, "That's the guy." He's going to ask, what was it like recording with another? And I'm watching the mouth, and I see Whitney be like, "I'm not answering that question." I was like, "No, of course she's not going to answer that question. That is not a question Whitney would answer." By the way, back in the good old days. So I was like, no, missed opportunity. I said, if you ever need anything else, all I know is talented people, men and women and dancers and singers. And I'm from New York. If there's ever anything I can do to help, let me know. And her team said, well, we're shooting a video for It's Not Right next week if you want to submit people for that. And I did. And that was literally how my whole casting and talent sort of path started at MTV. Was a failed opportunity turned into a possible opportunity. And then I had to deliver on finding women who were going to actually resonate. And I did. The whole front line is like all my friends from Wagner College. It's so cool. That was the weird thing about me in the beginning of my TV phase. Is I always just cast my friends because I knew what they were capable of, but you didn't know what I was working on. So like, you work on some weird shows. The Tom Green show.
Oh yeah.
My friends. So my friends are like crunchy hair and soft hair. Like the scarred from being pop culture. Luckily, there's no memes back then because they would have been or contestants on Say What Karaoke, or the kids who asked the kids who recommended videos on TRL. If you were in my youth group, if we went to school together. If you knew Vinny from Staten Island back then, I was so happy to get you in. I was like, yo, I got the door open. Come in while they give me the keys. This is funny.
Before they kick me out.
Yeah, this is fun. I know my time ain't forever. So like I need to make sure I get great people in here. And I did. By the way, like TJ Lavin stayed for years. Nick Cannon stayed for years.
He's still part of that family over there with VH1 doing Wildin' Out.
Wildin' Out. I mean, they just shot 50 plus episodes a week ago. They just shot an entire year's worth of episodes to be part of that franchise. To be in the room when Nick pitched. When he first pitched that show, MTV passed. They didn't get it, and then winter break came. He was dating Christina Milian back then, and they went and recorded. A little tape, like a pilot. It was her. She was one celebrity in her team, and then he was another celebrity in his team, and they're kind of the perfect duo, to be honest, to pitch that show. If you're going to ask me back in 2001, right? Like it was exactly what you wanted to be able to show advertising. My advertisers at MTV and say, hey, is this a show that you think advertisers would get behind? It's kind of like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And to see him come back and invest in himself
gambling himself, definitely. He was a gambling on himself, and
he was well known. He turned that into a yes. I'll never forget that, watching him invest in himself.
And that's what sometimes people are afraid of is taking that risk. Is they're afraid of being told no, or they're afraid like, oh man, I don't want to fail. But what they fail to realize is that you're failing by not doing it. By not attempting and trying it out. How are you going to know if you fail if you don't do it?
Well, you're guaranteed to fail that way. I can answer the question. I hate to give you answers, and I don't mean to talk in summaries, but that's a fail. If you ask me,
it definitely is. It definitely is a fail. So
it's so fun. I think of the fails too. Even Beyonce, they wanted Beyonce to be in a movie, and they went through the label first, and the label said, "It's a pass. Destiny's Child's not interested in having Beyonce separate and do a film right now." And
would that movie have been Carmen?
It was Carmen, a hip opera. Yeah. And I went down to the studio, and I will never forget talking to Tina about the opportunity. Tina Knowles about the opportunity, and I gave her the sides, and I said, I know that everyone passed on it. I'm just making sure you see what this is, because it just felt like the right project. I had that relationship with that family. We were looking at Solange possibly as a VJ, and she's hosted some stuff for us as well. And I worked with Kelly. Like I worked with the group to help them be hosts, and I've worked with them in a really fun capacity. But I just knew that this was an opportunity that could be something powerful, and it didn't win her the Emmy Awards, but I got her a pretty good audition where she did end up winning some pretty big awards for bigger roles. And also in Carmen, the hip opera, I've read Beyonce talks about like she learned character development on set in that movie. Like she created Sasha Fierce in that gig while recording, while filming that movie. She is like, well, I'll create a character for me if I can step into it and be it, and then step out of it. And let y'all believe, and this is how I can manage being Beyonce on and off. Like I've heard her talk about the process. It's a creative process. She was building a sustainable creative process then in 2002, saying, how do I be as fierce and awesome as I can, but also give myself the grace, the space just to be imperfect, because I need that to feed that other character. That's what that character thrives on. And it was cool to see that happen. And I in no way take credit for any of her success, but I'm like, yo, I'm the guy that was in the room. I got to hold the camera and it was the three of us and the director. It was an amazing moment. And when you see someone like that audition in such a vulnerable, auditioning is a very vulnerable process. And it's just something that when that happened, I was like, oh, this is great. And then a year later, I got the call and they were like, we're doing Osbournes and Newlyweds and Punked and like reality TV. And I'm like, but what? But I thought we were going to do like MTV Films, like put people in, like Mandy Moore in her first film and Andre 3000. And I did this weird thing. I forget the name of it. Volcano High. It was called a Kung Fu movie that we retracked. Yeah. And I got to cast all hip hop artists as the voices of all of them. So it was like that was a really fun project. I got some fun relationships with that one that lasted a while. Khalees, Pat Morita, I got to work with, God rest his soul.
Miyagi, yes.
Yeah, right. God rest his. He was a fun one. It was his cat's birthday. He was not happy about the recording hours were running late. I just remember being like, I want to be him. I want to be just set in my way and persnickety and creative and rah. And like I just loved I loved that whole process. It was some fun times. And those people made big things out of those opportunities. I look back really fondly at my time that I was there and the people I got to share space with and what they're still doing with it.
But now you're in a new space.
Yeah.
You're in podcasting.
Podland.
Yes. And so what do you feel you've done to help impact diversity in media?
For me, it's the way that I approach every opportunity that I've ever been hired to do. Yeah. I'm often hired, especially early in my career, I was hired to do things that, not to say I wasn't qualified for, but I don't think anybody really was, let alone from a cultural perspective or a community access point. I think that the things that I got to do, I got to MTV in the late 90s, 3 or 4 years after MTV Raps, after a huge cultural revolution that had already occurred 4 years. Like my mentors at MTV were Funkmaster Flex. Literally, I can go on and on and on about what he taught me about just showing up and being on time and understanding the process and the importance of being someone's first. Actually, I love this. Flex gave me my first plaque, my first platinum plaque. And he's like, you're going to get a lot of them. I need to make sure I'm the first one because you never are ever going to forget your first plaque. And that was something that I think lit a fire for me. Like there's a lot of people who do what we do, a lot of people, but I try to be the first person you meet, the first person that you turn to, the first person that you think of when this now topic comes into play. For a long time, that was wrapped around reality TV. And that was the story of if you're looking to change your life, if you want to empower yourself and empower your audience, Vinny's the guy to call. He knows the networks and can help come up with a structure for a format, find the production company, put the pieces together, get the development deal, move the process along. Even in like 2000, when I had to recast Tyrese from Direct Effect, and we ended up first hiring Lala and then DJ Clue. I'm from New York, so first off, Lala's not even in, so I remember them like, Lala, she's from LA. And I'm like, yeah, but like we're at MTV. I'm like Times Square, New York, the whole like, why would we have somebody from LA come to New York? I just thought my world was so small, by the way. Yeah. I said, why would we have someone from LA come to New York? First off, and then this is what I know about. First off, I know that there's sides to the hip hop story, and I know that as a New Yorker, I fall on the New York side. So like, I know there's a part of as I'm learning, because you have to pick Mets, Yankees. You have to pick Nets. You have to pick along the way as a child here, as a borough boy. You
It's
have to
funny.
pick along the
It's,
way.
it's funny that you mentioned the Mets and the Yankees
Why?
because, as you can tell, I'm a Yankee fan. That's Yankee Stadium behind me, and my friend Corrado, who made comments about the Espresso and everything, he's a diehard Mets fan.
Yeah,
diehard Mets fan, and we just go at it. We just go at it. But more him than anything. It's like, to me, I feel like Mets fans, they're upset because they're the little brother, and so they just have this hatred for the Yankees. And me personally, I root for all New York teams. I love all my New York teams, but I'm a Yankee fan. I'm not gonna say I won't root for the Mets if they're in the World Series. As long as they're not paying my team, I'll root for them. But if they're playing the Yankees, it's no brainer. I'm gonna root for the Yankees. But to me, I feel like Mets fans they will not root for the Yankees. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they play. They will not root for the Yankees.
I identify as a Mets fan in my house, of course. The oldest of 6. That was like my dad liked the Yankees. I liked the Mets. That's kind of how it worked. But I was born in 77. The 86 Mets was like, I'm 9 years old when that happened. So like those were Hernandez and Carter, Strawberry. Like those are like.
I just turned 46 this year.
Oh yeah, I appreciate. Yeah. So like those, and there's books now that they write about the Mets that like the
amazing Mets, yes,
the cocaine Cowboys
all over.
Yeah. I'm like, what a time!
Listen, the 80s was crazy. The 80s, the clubs in the 80s were crazy. Studio 54. All
all of it. That's why I knew I had to stay here in New York. That's it. Madonna, all of it, every single piece of it. And that's where music happened. That's also so much of my professional, like once I got to MTV, getting to be at MTV casting VJs and what I did, it gave me a little bit of clout socially that I was allowed then to be in clubs and places like that late night, where I actually made relationships with artists that were coming into TRL the next day. It's like I would bump into an artist who's in town. They'd get in at night. They'd go out at night. I'd meet them because I'd be out with it for whatever reason. Someone would know that, we're both destined to be at MTV tomorrow. And then I would go down to the studio having just met that person. And I can go down a list of people where I was like, that's where that show idea came from, because no one was going around pitching their own reality TV shows when I was at MTV. I was a crazy guy calling up Wade Robson. Wade, don't you think we should have a dance show? Don't you? Wilmer pitched me Yo Mama, but I didn't get it. I was like, Will, I think you're not getting. I think something's getting lost in translation. I got picked as a kid. This is not the. But wait, to answer your question about diversity in media, so it was the opportunities that I brought when I needed to find Clue or find a host, or work outside. I made sure that the sources that I pulled from. Because I never is a weird thing to say. As a casting director, I never went and looked for the person I was looking for. I looked for the person to introduce me to the person that I was looking for. I looked for connectors for Mavericks who I know would know 50 people who could potentially qualify for this. So I can have a long-term relationship with them. And by the way, I would give them VMA tickets, and anytime they wanted TRL tickets, they had more. Like their kids basically grew up in the audience. I opened up the doors for those people. And I not only did that, in the audience, but in the pitch rooms, and got those shows green light, because it's all part of the alchemy. If you're pitching shows, every 1 out of 10 is going to get it. Then let's make sure we get the 10 right people in here pitching. If I know that my 1 out of 10 is going to go, then I'm only going to give you 10 that I want you to pick. I'm not going to take a risk and put something in there that I think, unfortunately, actually, it's sad to say this, but that's how I work. I wouldn't take the risk to get the no, because sometimes those risks were things that turned into yeses, and I get bummed about this. But I did a whole series with Nas and Khalees. I did their Newlyweds. I did 10 episodes with them, and we finished recording it. We were, I think, 8 episodes locked in the can, color corrected, music was balanced, ready to go. Yeah. And then in 2007, they said, you know what? we want to try this Laguna Beach show spinoff, The Hills. We're going to take the same cast from the city, put them back in LA, and see if The Hills picks up. And unfortunately, we're going to have to lose the hour that we were going to give. It was called Me and Mr. Jones. So we're going to have to lose the hour. And I was like, wait, what? Like wait, what? Wait, what? Like, what part of this is like, I'm not digesting this. This doesn't feel right. This feels like my time here is literally, this feels like my time here is done. Yeah. And then the next call was like, but we want you to work on Tila Tequila. And I'm like, when she pitched that show to me, the whole bisexual thing wasn't an angle. So like, I don't take kind to all of a sudden creatively bringing in a unique angle that, I don't know. I didn't get it. You're the number one MySpace artist, but you don't even have a single on MySpace. I just wasn't connecting the dots. So it was time for me to go cast Housewives on Bravo and go figure out, shows on A&E and the world out there. But in 2015, when I got to focus on and leaving that TV world behind and focus on social media and focus on business. I always worked with business owners. Beyonce is a business owner. Mandy Moore, Ashley, they're all Sharon Osbourne. They're all business owners. But now that this phone is what qualifies you to be a creator, everyone's got one. My world just got better because the power in small business, the power that we have as small business owners and our products and our services and the way we stand to provide value, to offer value to people, that there's too much inherently in that. That's what attracted me to MTV in the first place. And now I don't have to go through TV to make content that really matters, that has an impact. And all those people who helped me along the way are part of, the Alchemy Now, which is why in my podcast, I kind of go back and talk to people, shows. I can't wait to actually, now I'm thinking about this. I'd love to have a show with the Simmons family because that was quite an experience we went through, just from like script reads to green lights to like life issues. And they were so young when that happened too.
Oh, Runs House. Yes.
Making sense of that, of that all is like crazy. So
and to see where they're at now, and now they do
powerful and their own verticals everywhere.
Yeah, they do. What are they doing now? They're doing growing up hip hop.
Oh yeah. So, and they're producers. They're creating jobs. They're creating. They're not just in it themselves. They know the power. They saw it. That's what they got exposed to. That's what I meant by like, there was no part of it that was veiled. I was very open to bringing access, and that's what I think. I did consciously all 10 years that I was at MTV. I think that's what I did consciously, and some of those relationships remained fruitful far after I left and are still fruitful. So in terms of like thinking of a creative legacy, I know Nick Cannon and DJ D-Rec and TJ Lavin, all the old guys on MTV, except for Rob Dyrdek. I got all those old guys on MTV. And they're like, hopefully big brother units. They're seen more as like big brothers to this audience, and they represent success, and they represent challenges. They represent so much that I'm really proud of.
Awesome. Man, this has been great, man. I appreciate you coming through. But now is the time where you really get to just plug away. Just let them know websites, everything. Go.
Oh, go. All right. Well, look, I love helping people win awards. If you want to learn how to win awards, I have a list of 99 awards worthy of winning that I'd love to share with you. If you want to make money from your podcast and you don't know how, chances are you aren't already listed on an influencer marketing index, a creator marketing index. And I have about 60 of them that I like to share. I make a couple of thousand a month from unique opportunities that come to me just because I put my name on a list. And I've got about like 12, 13,000 followers on any given platform. I'm a micro influencer, if anything, so hopefully it feels very approachable to people out there. If y'all are looking for that type of support, VPE.tv is my website. VPE.tv is where you can come up, join for free. It's a free lifetime membership where you can get that information. Otherwise, I have a podcast.com is the place where I put all of my featured podcasters and featured podcasts, and you'll find lots of indie news and podcast support there at ihaveapodcast.com. That's it. That's two awesome. Websites, VPE.tv or
I'm definitely going to sign up for both of them.
Thank you.
For both of them, definitely. And I'm actually going to send you a copy of this interview so you can post it as well. And yeah, it would be foolish of me if not to do it. Like
Yeah, I'm excited.
it,
Thank you
it,
so much.
no,
It's
I
very
would be a
gracious.
fool. I would be a fool not to. It's like, why not? Like,
I would be a fool not to have created this space. I was like, what? Are you kidding? There's too much value. Like, we just gotta, I'm like, where's the spotlight? The reason, but also, by the way, like, and you've got like a great camera, maybe 2023, everyone who's using video and podcasting. Also, here's what I'll just leave anyone out there watching this still. Thank you for watching over an hour, by the way. If you're looking to get into video podcasting 2023, things to put on your Christmas list: a 4K camera. It's inevitable. We're choosing to be on 720, 1080 on lower quality. Having 4K is one of those things that's going to help us differentiate from a lot of other podcasters. And there's going to be more video podcast networks that launch next year, whereas we're familiar with podcast networks are, and the audio podcast networks are HubSpot podcast. We know what it sounds like to find one of those audio, but when you tap into a network, a TV network that's streaming live back-to-back video, it's going to be 4K because of FCC regulations. So put that 4K video camera in your Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever holiday you celebrate at the end of the year. Put it in your wish list.
So y'all heard that. If any content created out there, get that 4K camera. And listen, when you first start, if it's just a hobby,
yes,
you don't.
Good point.
Don't necessarily need to invest in a lot of money. You can go find you can find yourself an inexpensive camera and an inexpensive mic. But for me personally, I felt this is what I wanted to do. This is my lane. This is the lane I wanted to be in. So I invested in myself. I invested in a quality mic. I invested in a quality mixer. I invested in a quality camera because I felt that, again, people are watching my show right now for over an hour. So I want to give them the best quality possible. I want my sound to sound crisp. I want my video to come out not grainy, where you can actually see good quality picture. So to me, to invest in myself was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm here, and it lets me lean in too, because I know we have a better quality product together. So thank you for having me, and thank you for the space and everything you're doing. It's like, it's awesome that I'm excited. Excited to be here. I hate the word excited. I'm energized to be here. I'm like, there's something sustainable that happened in this conversation that feels good.
It's crazy because when you have these conversations, you by the end of it, you're energized. You're like, you still got all that energy from a great conversation, and just the energy just flowing through. People don't get it. It's when you have a great conversation, the energy is just flowing. It's just some positive energy and some great vibes. Just keep going through, even though we're not nowhere near each other.
Mm-hmm.
Just the energy going through the camera and what the energy we're putting out there. By the time when I'm done, I'm gonna still be wired from this.
Well, you're gonna go to IMDb, so I'll send you that link.
Yes, I am gonna sign up for IMDb.
Audiolinked.com, AUDIO, audiolinked, LANKED, because we met on LinkedIn. So audiolinked.com. It's literally step by step. By the way, you don't need to have an IMDb Pro account. It's completely free. This is like free and the most valuable data-driven thing you can do.
This is what content creators need to hear.
Yeah,
there's things out there, free tools that you can use to help grow and build your brand.
Yeah, it tells Google what you are and what you're doing. It connects you to people too. So like, I've had Mandy Moore on my podcast. If you go to Tangled or This Is Us, you see one of those movies or shows, whatever she's been on. You go to see who played that role. You see it's Mandy. You go to her page. You look at podcasts. You see my podcast. That's the way I'm using it as a discovery method too. So I even to be honest, when I was hiring for my podcast, because I in production and TV, I felt like I wanted to hire an editor that worked on Serial. I just wanted that for my podcast story. So I went to Serial. I looked at who the editors were. Typed their name in. I went and searched their websites, and then I picked one. And we ended up working together. I wanted people to see that I had put that type of level of audio on there specifically. So like I use it as a way to leverage and let people know that I'm creating high quality content. I'm collaborating with high quality creators. It's a really awesome way. And I would be honored to be a guest. And I pay for my IMDb thing, so I get my little photo in there. So like that's nice. Look, now you'll see. I appreciate if you want to tag me as a guest, the space that you'll give me to be discovered when people find your podcast and scroll down to see it all.
But it's the best thing to be a guest. I love being a guest on other people's podcasts. It saves me from not having to do all the editing and all that extra work and all the thumbnails.
It's like Thanksgiving, right? Like, would you rather host Thanksgiving or would you go to Thanksgiving?
Just sit down and eat.
Some people will say, no, I have to host. Cool. And those people make great podcasts, by the way. You shop, the process, the cooking, make the aftermath, the picture.
I love doing my podcast. I love doing my podcast, but I also don't mind being a guest.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll be a guest. Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Quick
so what I do now on my podcast is I have 12 people a year on my podcast, and I do 4 or 5 episodes with them in one sit down. So that's just like 4 episodes with one celebrity throughout the entire month. And what that lets me do is it lets them pick and choose which episodes they share. It gives a really nice stress-free, if you some things you post, some things you don't, that's cool. Timing is awkward sometimes, how many times have we had something that we wanted to release and then something happens in the news where it's really not appropriate to put it out there. So like, I don't have to, I'm mindful of that. So I built a system where that doesn't impede my message getting out, and I can be respectful of the silence and the opportunities that I have to do that. And that just was my way of being able to have to penetrate an audience. Because with guests, I'm not finding a lot of growth coming from the guests on my podcast. But like that's why I said earlier to you, let's put this on my podcast because they're more likely to listen. We're more likely to have community and contribution here.
Like I said, I have no problem sharing it.
Yeah,
I've had guests request, hey, can I get this? And
smart. Thank you.
Because to me, it makes a lot of sense. Like some of them have bigger audiences than me. Some of them have bigger email lists, whatever it is. So I would be a fool not to want to share it. I'm not a fool. So I will, as soon as I download, I will be sending you a copy of it.
I love it. Well, thank you much.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. But don't leave just yet. I just got to do my shout outs, and we'll probably chat a little bit off air, and we can talk about what I can send you and everything. So just hold on.
Yeah.
All right. So now it is time for shout outs. Big shout out to everybody in the chat, Corrado, Amber, Obaimi, everybody who's shown love on the chat. I appreciate you guys. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J, love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, love you, baby, appreciate you. Big shout out to Vinny for coming through and sharing his story and sharing all the great, listen, he shared some real good tips, content creators out there. So if you ain't got an IMDb page, sign up. He said it's free, so definitely sign up, man. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at @wise_b_blunt, Instagram at @wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.